The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining the ACCA Leadership Brand U session with Kelly Lundberg. Everybody has been following Kelly, and I know that there's a lot of social media around this session. So without further ado, thank you, Kelly. Over to you.
Hi there, thank you so much for the introduction. Really nice to be online with you all. I can't see all your faces, but I do hope that wherever you're sitting, you've got a pen, you've got a piece of paper, because I am going to overload you in a good way with lots of content that you're going to be able to really put into a practical sense, and how you can really look at your brand you by the end of the session. Now, a lot of the content is related to perhaps if you potentially own your own business, but also this content is for people that are maybe an employee within an organization that need to stand out, that need to be seen, that want to climb the ladder. You can also utilize this. So if it's directed towards entrepreneurship, just think, how can I change this around and use it as an employee? And if I give an example for an employee, think, how can I use that from a business perspective? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and turn off my camera. I'm going to come back on at the end for questions, but I just want you to focus on the presentation that I've got. Please ask questions. I love answering questions. We'll have time to do that at the end, and this will really just help it personalize it to sort of maybe the challenges you're going through, or how can you turn yourself into an award-winning personal brand. So let's get started. You should be able to can we see my screen? Or because I'm a panel, does that mean that I can't actually share my screen? Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so the purpose of what I'm sharing today has worked well for me and my clients for, let's say, the past, I'm going to give you a bit of backstory as to it, but for the past 8 or 10 years, it works in normal market conditions. And this is what I've used to build my personal brand, but let's be realistic, this is not normal market conditions. But the point is, we're getting through it slowly but surely, and through this whole experience, I've realized that there's 2 types of people. There's one that kind of sit there, they wait, they worry, they kind of look around, they're like, they wait for conditions to improve before they do anything. And then there are those that have used and are using this time so proactively to really be ready that when the market does pick back up, they have got presence, they've got digital presence, they've got social media presence, and their brand is on point. So this is what we're going to be talking about here today. What I'm not going to be talking about is personal branding from the perspective of your logo, your company strategy, your mission, your vision, and your values. Today is about you and your brand and the things that you are absolutely in control of. So this all kind of comes around because, you know, throughout my years as a celebrity stylist and building my styling agency, I really dived a little deeper into why build your brand you. And I found this interesting study, and it's basically said that 91% polled showed that they were more likely to purchase from a brand or a business that appeared authentic. And by the way, I did this very similar presentation to cabin crew last week who were all looking for jobs. And it's the same when you're an employee, or maybe you're out of work at the moment, but what people are interested in is that they will hire you if you appear more authentic and real. So people want to know the story behind your brand, the story behind you. They want to connect with you. And it's ultimately the key to standing out from your competition is your personal brand. Whether you're going for a job, you want to climb the career ladder, or you want to build your business and bring more money in. So when you're building a business, for example, around your area of expertise, so say an author, a speaker, a coach, a consultant, maybe a fashion stylist, a photographer, a wedding planner, so on, you get the picture. The concept of building a personal brand, you know, probably comes a little bit more naturally because you are your brand. But now, more than ever, this is the time where you need to be the face of a business, your business, and personal branding is the way to do this. So how did this kind of come around, and why did we get to this point? And maybe through my experiences, perhaps there's some relevant to yourself. So throughout my years of growing a business, like I've been in business now for the past 15 years here in Dubai, I have realized that most people are interested in following, and when I say following, certainly nosying on social media, people, than they are specific companies or brands. So therefore, building an audience around your personal brands can actually help increase exposure for you and your company if you're the self-employed, and also if you're looking for a job in that perspective. You know, employers, I wrote down the stats actually, it was insane the other day when I did it, the percentage, I'm just going to look back, see if I can find it, of people potential employers, like it was plus 70% potential employers look for a digital presence to see if you're around. And I think that there's the authenticity piece without a doubt, but also people are a little bit nosy as well. So when I started my styling business, I really did realize that people were interested in seeing behind the scenes of what Kelly was doing than Style Me Divine. So there was two main pivotal points in my career as I was building my business as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that I decided to make the decision to sort of separate them and have both. And this might be relevant to you, but when I look back, I'm like, that was really clear. The first point was when I first launched my business. So that was back in 2005, and I remember clear as day driving down Sheikh Zayed Road, and I was like, well, I was thinking about the goals and the aspirations for my business, and I was like, do you know what? One day I want to sell my business, which meant I'd need to have something else to go to, but it couldn't just be all about me. So that was like, oh, okay, something else needed to happen, not right then. But when I got my big first gig to work with Harvey Nichols, so in the fashion industry, working with luxury brands is always like a big goal to have. So when Harvey Nichols contacted me sort of 5 or 6 years in business, they wanted me to host an event and promote it. And when I sent them all my collateral, you know, my logo and all my bits and pieces, they were like, I'm sorry, we won't promote your business. We will promote Kelly Lundberg. And this sort of came around the time when I was getting asked to do sort of speaking events about entrepreneurship. I'd actually published a book, and I didn't really have anything that represented the Kelly Lundberg brand, if you like. So that was where it came from. And quite conveniently over the years, it's really worked in my favor, and it's worked in my clients' favor as I've mentored them to have two brands, because last year I sold my styling agency. So that took 15 years of this sort of creating something from scratch and then selling it. And then I launched my business, the S Academy, which is a mentoring platform. And then I had Kelly Lundberg Official. Just to explain why it's Kelly Lundberg Official is because kellylundberg.com was bought in about late 2000 and 2000, when did I look for? Maybe 2006, 2007. A dad bought it for his newborn daughter, and said one day that she would like to have a website. So I've never been able to have kellylundberg.com. So that is why it is Kelly Lundberg Official, and this is why I have two brands. And honestly, this brings business to me one way through Kelly, but also through the mentoring platform. So, you know, the whole thing is about now selling my business, helping entrepreneurs and sort of people within their own business build their personal brand. You can make an impact through style, through social media, through speaking opportunities, media coverage, consistency, ultimately showing up as the best version of yourself. And I don't care what industry you're in, there is a space for everyone to stand out as a personal brand. You know, consumer demand for transparency right now more than ever can mean the difference between people trusting you and your business, or them choosing a competitor that they trust more. So your personal brand adds so much weight. You must consider marketing yourselves, as in the human, and not just our businesses. And if you can think of maybe sort of people where you think of their business and of their personal brand, you know, Oprah is a personal brand. Steve Jobs was a personal brand. We knew him and we knew Apple. And then if you look at even Sheryl Sandberg, Sandberg, within the organization of Facebook, but she also has a personal brand. So you can do this within an organization as well. So I wanted to highlight this in a little bit more detail, but you're going to have a little piece of homework to do. And this is just to have a little look from the personal brand perspective, is the difference between brand and business when it comes to, say, social media. So everyone knows Richard Branson, he is also a personal brand, and Virgin Atlantic is one of his businesses. And this was where just sort of highlighting that people were really interested in a business, personal capacity, less so a business. Like, look at that, 4.3 million followers, and less on his personal brand. You know, your brand is really what distinguishes you from your competitors, and it helps form lasting impression in the mind of your audience and customers. Let's take someone else that you might be familiar with, Elon Musk, Tesla Motors. I was so surprised that Tesla didn't have a larger following, given the type of just the software and the technical aspects of what it is. But hey, everyone wants to know Elon Musk and what he's doing and creating next. For those in another industry, you know, where Gary Vee started out, VaynerMedia, but he actually started out in the wine industry, but now he is prolific on social media. And it is so authentic and so real, like 7.8 million, I think he might even nearly be at 8 million followers. Huge. Versus VaynerMedia, which is a business, which brings in the money at like 200 or 1,000. And then I thought this was an interesting comparison. So you might not be familiar with who Sarah Blakely is, or you might be. She is the first self-made billionaire woman in the US. And she is the founder of a company called Spanx, which is the ultimate shapewear for women. I don't know how many women we've got online here. And, you know, hers was pretty similar at the time when I first pulled this together. But what was really interesting was the engagement piece. So whilst they were both kind of in the 300,000s, Spanx was kind of sitting at between 700 and 1,000 comments, versus Sarah's social media account is anywhere between 11 and 50,000 per post. So this is highlighting one major aspect, is you don't go out and you buy followers. This is about building up authenticity, but this is really to identify that people really want to know behind the scenes. They want to know what it is that you're doing, who it is you're helping, and just that sort of real you piece. Because ultimately, you are who Google says you are. So this was a really interesting statement, and this is your piece of homework. Is after this masterclass, I want you to go online and I want you to type your name into Google. And if you've never done it before, great. If you have done it before, you need to go incognito, because it's only going to show you the posts that you've done before. And this is crucial, because this is where you're going to see if people are trying to shortlist your business or shortlist you as a candidate, they will look for you. What is on there? And this is the question. Are you happy with what is on there? Do you like what you see? Does it paint a compelling picture of who you are, and what you do and who you serve? Or is there nothing about you? Is it time to change that? If you click on images, what comes up? If you click on videos, what comes up? And if you do it for me, you'll see that there's so many pictures that come up, and that has been a process, it's been time, but I've invested massively into high quality images. So whenever doing a comment on a magazine article, the image will always be associated. And the same with videos, video content, YouTube. It just all helps the sort of search engine optimization aspect. So what are some of the benefits that you have to thinking about building a personal brand? Well, first of all, we've got trust and authority. Having a personal brand really helps build trust with your audience, and that could be your peers, your employer, but it positions you as the authority and thought leader in your industry. So I know that their, the focus today is accountants, accountancy. So this is where you need to be positioned as a thought leader in your industry. And by looking at the stats, we've got a lot of people on here. So there needs to be something that you do that stands out. Another focus could be get featured in media. Having a personal brand makes it easier for you to be pitched and be found by media online. So if they want to make a comment about, how our business is surviving during COVID, then when they do the research to Google someone, look who comes up. If there isn't anything about you, they can't find you. It's a great opportunity to build your network. So when you have a personal brand that clearly articulates who you are, what you do, and how you help others, and I'll say that again, when you have a personal brand that articulates, this is where people get it wrong. They're like, oh, I've got a personal brand, but then they're trying to focus on helping everyone and anyone and their dog. It doesn't work like that. If you have a personal brand that clearly articulates who you are, what you do, and who you help or how you help others, it just makes it easier for other people and entrepreneurs to see value in you, but also be able to refer clients to you as well. You can attract more clients. So if you have a personal brand that positions you as the go-to expert in a specific industry or niche, then they'll send clients your way. When you're positioned as an expert, it really just helps the credibility factor as to why you and your business are great at what you do. And that's what you want. And finally, increase pricing. I mean, having a strong personal brand justifies charging a premium price for your products and services. Or it could mean the difference between, you asking for a raise. Without a personal brand, you ultimately become a commodity that competes on price. And I'll tell you now, there's always going to be competitors that will beat your price and will go in and offer cheaper. Always. But you don't want to be the cheapest person. Having a personal brand allows you to stand out and charge premium pricing because you've got so much more value and so much more credibility. I have worked with a mentor since I think maybe the first 2 or 3 years in business. I was like, I need help with this. Worked with various coaches over the past sort of 12 years. And I was in the market earlier this year looking for a new one, and I had a call with her, thought she was excellent, really liked it. But before I committed, I was like, you know what, I want to do a bit more. I want to put my where my mouth is and just kind of check out her personal brand, what's around there, because people really can have the gift of the gab and really sell. But what else is out there? And when I did my homework, I was like, no, I don't believe this person has the same values as me, is on the same page to justify, because this was the thing, she was very good at what she was doing, but her price was outrageous. I don't mind paying money for things that are good, but I felt that her personal brand really let her down, and I didn't end up going with her. So let's not make that you. So what are some of the things that you need to consider when you're building your personal brand? Well, hey, we all need goals, and that does not stop when you're thinking about your personal brand. And some of the things could be a milestone on social media. It could be to launch a social media platform, or whichever one it is that you want, that you think your target audience is on. It could be to get to 10,000. It could be to do it every day. It could be to get great pictures. Whatever it is, there could be a milestone there. It could be consistency in your personal branding. And that could be anything from the way that you present yourself online. It could be style. It could be, in the organization. What are the things? Maybe you want nothing to do with you, but you want to align yourself with a charity and focus on something that is helping the community. Maybe you want to be a guest on a podcast. I wanted to be on this particular podcast, Fire Nation. Well, actually, it's called Entrepreneur on Fire, which I love. And I've been listening to it for the past 7 or 8 years. One day I was on my daily walks listening to it, and I was like, but I want to be on this show. How do I make this happen? It took about 8 months, but I got on it. And it was an awesome show. It was like episode 730, I can't remember exactly what it was. And it was in the days when I was heavily styling, and I did an amazing competition at the end. And out of that, I got a publishing deal like 4 years later from a US agency. So you just never know where these things come from. Maybe it is to step up your personal style. Maybe it's to be featured in a magazine. Maybe it's to sort your life out and systemize it and look more professional. But all of this is contributing towards you showing up as the best version of yourself. And it might be all of these. But we need to get some sort of specific goal that you can work towards. It might be a TEDx talk. That was another one of mine in 2016, and or that came to fruition in 2016. But all of these things sort of add to your credibility piece. So let's touch on a digital presence. So notice I say digital presence before social media, because digital presence is the big umbrella. Social media is just one of the ways, and one of the best ways ultimately to build your credibility for a global audience. You might have a local audience, and it's also great for a local audience, but people just, I said once, twice, they love to have a little nosy about what you're up to and how you can help. And rather than the professional, oh, this is the website, this is what we put on here, there's the softness to social media platforms to be social and engage. So great. So let's look at some of the platforms that you can be looking at that might work for you. One that works very well for me is Instagram. That is because primarily I've been in the luxury lifestyle fashion industry for so long. But now through mentoring, it's real, it's people, it's connections, it's still a really interesting space. So some of the things that you can be doing is obviously creating consistent content. You need to be really clear as to say what it is you do and how you can help, or entice people why they should actually stay and follow you, more to the point. And look at something like really maximizing that CTA, maximizing the link field with a CTA, so call to action. You can use Milkshake as an app, you can use Linktree, where you can have multiple links, where you can link them to a lead magnet so you can start to nurture your audience. Like, there's just so many opportunities out there to helping grow your business in that sense, or making yourself stand out. You know, another sort of, story as to how did I get a really awesome client was Louis Vuitton called me, at the end of last year, it would have been now, funnily enough, I was driving down Shakeside Road again on hands-free, and when they contacted me, it was the learning and development side of Louis Vuitton, and they were saying, could you come and do a sort of personal branding and style presentation for their employees and what have you. So that was all very doable. And at the end I said to her, how did you find out about me? And she was like, I've been following you for ages on social media and saw that you'd been working with other brands and wondered if there was a way that you could help us. So whilst Louis Vuitton might not be following you because it's not your industry, whatever is your industry or where you want to be seen could be following you. You just never know. Maybe you need to have a Facebook page. Maybe that's where your audience is. They're a little bit older, could be the place that, I always think there's a space for Facebook, because if you're ever going to do any paid ads, you need to have a Facebook page. It's an opportunity for you to get reviews, and you can include information like maps and contact details. So they kind of go hand in hand, Facebook, and they're owned by the same people. So you need to really have them both. What I have enjoyed is Facebook groups, only because you can nurture a community. You can focus on sort of them. If they're not a client now, they could potentially become a client. So I've got a personal branding Facebook group. I've got the S Academy, which is just for fashion stylists, that I started about 3 years ago. So it's just all about nurturing a community that could potentially become clients for you. LinkedIn is probably a really good tool for you, and I'd love to know if you're maximizing it to the best capabilities that you are. This is really an online portfolio and a business journal. I've learned so much over the past 6 months about LinkedIn, and I really changed it from being that CV and having that about you section being really formal. It needs to be really personal now. And it's your opportunity to have visibility amongst professional business people and journalists. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I spent time in Los Angeles as a celebrity stylist, and one of the goals I wanted to do then was be on a TV program called E! And I was like, well, how do I find that person? And I went and paid for the premium version of LinkedIn. I sourced all LinkedIn for anyone who was working at the show, got in touch with the producer, got her phone number, and basically ended up in talks about doing a show with her. So if you're wanting to get more publicity, start with LinkedIn, start with tidying that up, give recommendations. I mean, I think now, if you go to my page, I think maybe we're sitting at 21, maybe 25 recommendations, not just one that was done 10 years ago. So if you are in the space right now that you have 2 minutes, go and give a friend a recommendation. Go and give someone you've done business with a recommendation. It costs nothing, and it's a great way to support a small business. Maybe YouTube is your way. I'm not potentially sure. I mean, I'm sure there's an option of, accounts and how to make that, in a sense, sexier on YouTube, that people would sit down and watch it. That might need to be your creative vibe to come out with it. Certainly from the space that I'm in, it does help generate leads, and videos show authenticity. And I found that people really do enjoy engaging through watching rather than just reading. That might not be the right platform for you. Likewise, Pinterest might not be the right platform for you, because I mean, it's not just a social network, it is a search engine. I've bought so many things from Pinterest, through seeing them there onto something else. But this is the digital presence on a whole. Okay, so some of the key social media platforms, depending on your industry. But maybe you want to get in some articles. How can you get some press about you? And Sharon, who I mentored over the past 12 months, this was like her local newspaper reached out to her and was like, can we do a feature on you at the weekends? And it was a natural way to introduce her business. And it's the same for you. Could even be that you need to consider having a personal branded website. It's another avenue that people can find out about you as a business. But do you know what? Again, even if you're looking for a job, I read this story and it was about this like famous rapper. I didn't know who he was, but apparently he was famous. And he was looking for a new intern to go and work with him for a year. And loads of people sort of DM'd him on social and sent him emails and stuff. And this one guy created a personal branded website on him and how he could help this rapper. Guess who got the job? The guy with the personal branded website. And he ended up touring with this rapper for a year and then blogged about it on his on his platform. What a great tool. And then he's built up his personal brand and his credibility, and it's much easier for him to get another job. This is Marquita, someone else that I've worked with as well. And the reason she was doing it was she wanted to raise funding. She wanted to raise capital. And she wanted to be known than just more than a designer. She wanted to be known as someone that empowers other women through footwear, but she needed to find an audience and nurture them. It's a very smart cookie. Because ultimately then it can lead to a Wikipedia page, presence on Wikipedia is the ultimate sort of reputation. So there's just some pieces that you can be thinking about in terms of like, how can you pool together sort of some of the resources that you have right now and start working on your personal brand. Okay, so we want to also, within the personal brand space, create demand in the market and in the media, because this results to getting articles and building that presence. So some of the things that you could be doing are interviews and PRs. So being interviewed as a guest expert on a podcast, which I'm about to go on later this afternoon, virtual summits, which there's loads of these around just now. It could even be a TV and radio. I was on the radio last week speaking to Dubai Eye about personal branding and how you could use that to help build your job prospects. So there's so many ways that you can do it. And now it's Dubai Eye's got on their podcast and it's on their social media, and it just all comes together. I mean, this in itself, the picture here was the National asking me, you know, about how I spend money as a business owner and how had my business changed and what were the things that I was doing there. Could you be a guest contributor or a guest blogger? And I always hated the word blogger because I just never really associated it with it being a space that I was in. I was in business, I wasn't blogging, but I've learned to understand that there's so many benefits to blogging. It helps search engine optimization on your website. It builds your credibility in your personal brand. Like, there's so much that you can be doing. This is a piece that I was doing for the Entrepreneur magazine. You know, a really interesting thing that I've heard when I mentor people from all industries, you know, whether they own a digital agency, a PR agency, you know, stylists, whatever, they go, oh, I don't have anything interesting to say. And here's the thing, what is obvious to you is amazing to others. Never forget that. Public speaking is a great way to help build your credibility and become a thought leader. This is Dawn, someone else I've worked with over the past 12 months, and we worked through getting an awesome TEDx talk together for her. But here's the interesting thing about TEDx talks, is it's a real credibility piece in business, but 9 times out of 10, you don't end up talking about anything to do with your business. And certainly when I did mine, it wasn't business. When Dawn did hers, it wasn't business. So what can you maybe be doing online? Where's your target audience? How can you give value and be able to help them, to nurture them, that one day they could potentially become a client? And another aspect you could be looking at is partnerships and joint ventures. Like, I spoke at this university here, and it was to students. But out of this, on the panel, there was someone there that worked in retail and then ended up booking a meeting with me to look at doing very similar training that I had hosted with Louis Vuitton and Chanel, actually. So you just never know where this sort of customer referral or a meeting can come from. So something else that's really helped me, you might maybe want to call this something different, but a media kit has worked really well in my industry because it's been, well, first of all, a media kit is it's a document, it's a high-level piece of information that describes you or your business. This might be, if you're looking for a job, your CV, for example, but it's a kit that anything a journalist or a publisher, for example, would need to cover a story on you, or a brand or a partner would need to collaborate with you. I think having, whether it's a media kit, but just even, oh, what do they call it in the States? Deck, what was it, a show deck, or your deck sheets or something, like you would send that. Kind of similar, when it just kind of shows any media coverage you have had, press mentions, social media mentions, you know, any shout outs, anything that really just helps your presence and looks really professional. So what it could contain is obviously a little bit about you. Obviously mine is a little bit more targeted towards social media because I do work with a lot of brands on an influencer side, but I also have a pitch deck that would just be about what would another one be about? Mentoring, for example. They would go out if it was a one-to-one client, and shows off in a professional way all the things I can do that add value. What you do, maybe websites if you have more than one, geolocation, social media presence. In media kits you can have clickable links. So my media kit has clickable links to these pictures, to these videos, so you can actually see where they are. You would have your stats on it. It could have multiple press releases that you've done in the past. It could have your logo, like high resolution. So if I was working with a brand and they were hiring me, I would send all this to them because it would also include a link to my media file and photographs. If you have not invested in getting photography done, this is one of the most important things that's a game changer in personal brand. Nothing to do with a vanity perspective. It's to do with pure professionalism. So the pictures that you saw further back with the National, they had said to me, Kelly, we'll send round a photographer to your house. I was like, one, sending a photographer to my house, we get natural light, and the photographer has to be good. And sometimes they send the most junior photographer, so they don't get you in your best light. And, you know, from a female perspective, you might want to do your hair and your makeup, and it's an expense and it's time. Having a media kit and all of that ready will just take you to the next level. And the reason I've had, I think I worked out like 6 or 7 front covers, is because my picture quality is so high resolution that it's hard to get high-res pictures. So if you send them a high-res picture, there's a good probability that you'll be on like a front cover or in, you know, a centerfold, for example. I remember my mum years ago, I was shortlisted for the Scottish Fashion Awards, Influencer Awards, I think it was, and the local paper in Scotland did a whole feature on me, and of course I sent them my media kit with the high resolution pictures, and I didn't see the pictures, and Mum called me and she said, Kelly, your picture is even bigger than Andy Murray. Now, I am quite sure Andy Murray has high resolution pictures. However, the piece in the space that I had, and a lot of these people end up just taking what's high resolution off the net. So something to think about there, that could be on your list for things to do. And as I've said, you know, this works well for entrepreneurs, it works well for employees, and these strategies don't just work for people that are living in Dubai. You know, I've worked with clients all over the world, whether it's back home in Scotland, UK, Madrid, Milan, Australia, Africa, like quite a diverse sort of portfolio. I might have a couple of little, was Antoinette. So from a style base, you know, she's been on these webinars, and you know, some of the things that she's done, she's been able to identify her niche, learn what our mission statement is, and how to have a great elevator pitch. I've streamlined my social media and updated my website, and she has great pictures, professional ones done. Yvonne owns a beautiful and promotes a beautiful castle in Scotland. And just one of the things through Brand You that she did, she was like, I am so happy. I updated my social media presence in one of our calls, and I just got a company confirmed with a podcast with a travel company which has 10,000 plus following. We want that. These, you know, listen, investing in personal branding is not an overnight thing. It's little baby steps, and it's every single day. It's a long-term investment, but your personal brand is always going to be you. It's not going anywhere. It's going to constantly evolve. Eleanor, I'm so glad I signed up for Brand You. It was informative, structured, non-preachy, and filled with so much content and value. Having finished the course, I had then no hesitation in asking Kelly to mentor me in my business. This is very nice, actually. This one, full of wisdom, ideas, enthusiasm, and generous with all three, and the rest, I have to say. So, just a little bit of a kind of backstory into, you know, what other people have said, how other people have kind of actioned. So, with this, I've shared with you what you can be doing. It's your time to make an impact and build your brand you. I've got a question for you, and I know some of you may have questions, so I'm going to be coming into the questions box in just a minute. Do you feel inspired? I love asking this question. Inspire is one of my favorite words. If you see on Instagram, I've got several prints around my home and office that have that word on it, because I really believe inspired action is when you're going to take things to the next level. Nothing I have shared today is theory. Everything I've done, my clients have done, and I've just got a system that works. And you know, they say you can only join the dots when you look backwards, and it will work for you. So if you want to know what steps you can be doing right now to develop your personal brand, so I've shared with you what you can be doing. If you want to know how to do it and actually hold your hand for it, so you can show your credibility and your brand awareness, you've got 2 options. So first is you can sit and wait. Remember I told you about those 2 people that I've come across during COVID, and not just COVID actually, before COVID, the ones that sort of sit and wait till everything's ready and you know, just wait till the perfect day, which there never is. Or There's the second person that's like, right, I'm going to use this time now. I'm going to create and make an impact. And listen, you might have a bit more time now than ever, so this is the time you should be doing it. So I'd love to introduce you to Brand You, and this is really how you can grow your brand, your business, and your impact, whether you're an employee or whether you are a business owner. And this is really a step-by-step formula to growing your personal brand, your brand awareness, your likability, your trust, and growing, everything from your social media to be natural to nurturing a database and being recognized in the media. Because who doesn't want that right now? Give you a rough idea of what's included? Well, it's a 7-week step-by-step or 7-step weekly modules that will help you create your brand new goals and a media list of who you want to target, because all of this is going to build towards building your business, your job opportunities, your job prospects, and really just take you to the next level. Get clarity on your messaging, like who you actually help and why, and start to identify a great niche with that sort of personal brand. Build your confidence and step up your social media with proven strategies. On the ones I focus on are Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, because they're the ones that I think have the biggest reach to the industries that I'm dealing with. Know what you should be putting in this a portfolio of collaterals, creating a lead magnet so you can have your own audience, or create your own media kit or deck sheet. Like, what are the things that you should be including in that? And I'm looking at considering streamlining your style. And I mean style, your personal style. How do you define your signature style? How do you step up your personal grooming? So it comes across that your brand you is on point and it's consistent. Other things can be speak to your audience by launching your own podcast or hosting a webinar, a masterclass. One of the girls I've actually mentored is she messaged me today actually, and from our time that we worked together, she's created an online course, she's an author, and now is selling an online course, which, she was like, I never thought would have been possible. Anything is possible. That's why I love living in this city. And really understand the secret to building a community and developing your database, because this is what it's all about. So there's checklists, there's worksheets and action items. They're all included. And what you will create at the end is basically expert status, credibility, that's key, clarity on who you help and why, not to mention a database of hot potential clients that have fallen in love with your brand you. So are you ready to step up your brand new presence so you get lifetime access to all the materials that you need? Well, you can get started today for $97, followed by 5 monthly payments of $97. The courses are normally advertised on the website for $997, and then what I'm going to do right now is share a one-time fast action price. I'm going to share a link with you right now in your social media, in your link in your in the webinars right now, for $497. So this gets everything that we've talked about, and you also get a money back guarantee. But what else we've got is 7 ways to grow your brand as an entrepreneur. So this is downloadable for anyone that signs up today. But more importantly, we get 4 group mentoring sessions with me, which is so much fun, where we sit every Monday and we come together for people all over the world that are going through exactly the same as what you are. So there you have it. Final step, click the link in the bio, and I am over to you for some questions. I'm going to turn on my camera, switch off my screen. There we go. How are you all? How was that?
Great, we've got some questions flooding in, thank you. One of the questions I feel is really important to tackle early on is, how do you get over the perceived awkwardness of talking about yourself?
A really good question, and it comes with practice. So you've got to find your boundaries of where you've got to find your boundaries to where you start. And it's where, a lot of people that I work with is, what are you passionate about? What are your hobbies? If you start doing something that's not authentic, people will see straight through about it. See straight through. So you just need to think about things like, imagine someone asked you a question and sort of answer a question through social media. Like, I was asked this the other day about, how can I best help, someone save money with their VAT? And, it could be a picture of you. Okay, this is a really bad example, but like at the petrol station, you would never do a picture of that. But you know what I mean? And then it would be, I collected my receipts and I've done this. I don't know, something along those lines. Really, like, that is a terrible example, but the idea is, how can you make it relevant for your audience that is something natural that you would answer if you were in front of them?
Okay, yeah, I get that. It leads really nicely into the comment of accountancy. How can you actually turn that skill set into a brand?
So sorry, was that, how can you turn the personal brand as
Yeah,
your personal brand as
accountancy. People say, oh, it's just numbers, it's quite a boring field, but the accountants among us know that it's not. It's very complicated, and they are superheroes. They are keeping the world going right as we speak. So how can we actually turn that into a cool, funky brand? I think that's what they're asking.
Yeah, and I should have thought about it at the time. About 2 months ago, I was contacted by an accountant, and I absolutely loved his approach. And he was from the US, and he basically came in and he said to me, "Oh, actually, I've included it in Brand U, and because it was so good, it's in the course." And what he basically did was said, I've looked through your social media. I love your account. Something like, I'm a massive fan of Gucci sneakers too. So made it relevant to the fashion world that I was in. And then said, but it's all good and well, spending on, designer items. Have you ever considered how you can tailor make this into your, it wasn't an accountant, he was a wealth manager or something like that. But then tailor make that into investments for your future. But already he got his trust. And then when I went to his page, was actually all about it was all about a style, and there was that relevance. So I guess that goes back to the previous question. What are you interested in? Where do you spend your money? How do you grow your business? What are the things that you do? Then that becomes a personal brand in itself. Do you spend time with your children? Include that into your personal brand. Who are the people that you're meeting? Make your clients part of your personal brand if they're happy to.
Excellent. All about relevance. Next question from Mandy. How long does it take to get noticed?
Oh, geez, that's the $1 million question. You know what? Someone could do one thing. Okay, it goes back to, who do you want to be noticed by? Because get noticed, what, by a magazine? Get noticed by, a potential client? And that's where the lack of clarity comes from. So what's your brand new goals? Who do you want to be noticed by? So you would need more information on that sense. And then it's a case of, remember, your personal brand, as a person, you constantly evolve. As a business, you constantly evolve. Your style evolves. Who you help evolves. Like, I remember when I first started, I was working, when I first had the agency, just with mums. And then right at the end of my career, effectively before I sold it, I was working with royalty and football players and a lot of male Emirati clients, actually. And it completely changed. And it was all just so relevant. My price point had changed. I was charging top end, 1,500 dirhams an hour, versus when I first started 15 years before was 150 dirhams an hour. So it's constantly evolving. And even if I go back 2 years ago and look at my social media, I'm like, wow, I've learned how to take better pictures, or, my hair was terrible. It's just, you're constantly evolving. But the question on that one is, who do you want to be noticed by?
Yeah, she goes on to say, we're a very new business and we get frustrated with trying to get out there, understand the social media channels that are working for them. But the word of mouth is helping us too. How do they kind of extend that? I think that's the point. How do they know what social media channels are right? And how do they maximize the word of mouth that they're currently getting?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well, that a lot of people think, oh, how do I get out there? And they think it's just social media. And that is just, for anyone on this, I just really want you to consider your social media as a shop window. That's what it is. It's a shop window for people to come and have a little look. Do they like how you style things? And when I say style, and do they like your quotes? Do they like what's there and what they see? That's one. And then word of mouth about sort of your referral business. What is your referral scheme in terms of how you are, offering it? It is just that building momentum through not just social media, because everyone just gets caught up on that. And that's why Brand You is just one perspective of social media is part of digital presence. But I would want you to be getting articles. I'd be wanting you to be guest contributing to something. I'd be wanting you to be doing collaborations. And a lot of people, when I go through their social media channels, I've done it quite a few times when we've done group mentoring calls, I go and look at their social media, and they're maybe following like 200 people. So they're not following enough people. They're not engaging with enough people. Like, it's such a cluttered space. So it is all about doing collaborations and seeing you come up on other people's pages and what have you. So it's not just one thing, it's multiple things, and it's just a case of time.
Excellent. Moving on, the question around a point you referred to earlier, and that's recommendations on LinkedIn. You mentioned that, but there's a lot of chatter about it being perceived as not really genuine. How do we make the recommendations on LinkedIn stand out to be authentic, not just buddies saying great person to work with?
I think it's having key points. So I think, if you're asking someone to do a recommendation for you, it would be, can you talk about that particular experience? Like, you helped me save money on this aspect, or when I first met you, I was here, or, having something that's relevant, so it's not just like you say, yeah, great to work with. I try not to do a like for like, that I've got varied, because what you can do is then you see given and received, and if you've given all the same that you've received back on, then it doesn't necessarily seem authentic, if that makes sense. So I would try and get different people involved that are not just your clients, if you know what I mean, because then it just looks like, oh, if you give me one, I'll give you one.
Yeah, makes sense. Somebody's mentioned, how do they identify their own superpower, i.e. what they're really good at?
That's another sort of question that there's not just one answer to. Ultimately, it comes down to, what are you doing what do you love doing the most? That's one side to it, but it also depends on, what do you love doing, and is that actually profitable? So you need to bear both of them in mind. Certainly in terms of resources that can help you is listening to podcasts and reading books. So personal development has been massive as part of my entrepreneurial journey. So who was it that asked that? Just ask me the question again. Trying to think of a book.
So it's
Your superpower.
Yeah, how do I identify my own superpower? And I think they're asking that in the question. There's a lot of text around it within their own realms of work. So I think they do a job where there's a lot of competition, but they want to identify their own superpower within that role.
Yeah, and that could be things like speaking to your peers. What do you know me as? Because I've got a brand you audit, and it's interesting that what you think you're good at, maybe other people think you're better, or vice versa. There's that sort of, ask. And people are often, bear in mind, if you ask, be prepared for the results, because you might not like what people say back. But ask around, ask your family, what do you think I'm good at? What do I love doing? Like, I go through a process of this twice a year, actually, through personal development, through working with a coach, where get really clear is, what are the things have I enjoyed doing over the past 6 months? What's brought me joy? What has had the biggest impact on my business? What has had the biggest impact on other people? And you know, it could be, maybe you need to read a book like Find Your Why by Simon Sinek, you know, all about your purpose and your power through that way. I'm trying to think what else I might have read recently. I'm going to have a quick look at my Audible page while you ask me another question. Was there any other questions? Sorry, just while I'm seeing if there's anything.
At the minute, no more questions. I think everybody's just waiting to see the presentation, which we will send out post this session. And that'll have
one of my favorite, like a really good book I enjoy is Building a Story Brand. So that really helps you get clear on your niche in terms of who you can help and why. I really recommend that book. I love You Are a Badass. She's so good, Jen Sincero. There's a couple that I know are really good.
Great. Well, I think that's everything. All the questions have been answered. Thank you so much. We will send this presentation out, and the video will be available on our YouTube channel as well as ACCA.me. I know in the presentation you have your contact details there, right, Kelly?
Yes, I'll send them to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send them.
So we'll be able to distribute that to everybody that's attended today's session, so they'll be able to contact you directly if they have any more questions. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's really interesting, and I hope we've inspired more people to get themselves motivated about Brand You.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for having me on. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.